Second.
And a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, we're out. Now drainage. I'll shut it. Did you put this with you here? That a girl? FYI, Rick Peterson is out of town, so Kent's sitting in for him today. Hopefully we get good publicity in the paper, all the good stuff will be written and
We paid him enough cookies.
we're making a phone call for someone that wants to listen in.
Denise? Hi, this is Trish at the auditor's office. I'm gonna put you on speakerphone, okay? So you can listen in. All right, hang on. Are you there?
Hello? The lights out. We have a bad for your...
Lights on. No one's home. Yeah, I passed it around.
Okay.
Maybe someone, who knows?
I don't know what happened to her. Denise? Huh. I don't know, hang on a minute and I'll try it again, okay? Hang on. Are you there?
Yes, I'm still there.
All right.
Okay, it's a little after 10, and as we had stated, Mike Borland is here from the Iowa Department of Agriculture Land Stewardship for a presentation, a discussion, and possible action on what we've been chasing around in circles for quite some time. So, I guess we were in there visiting, and as a board of supervisors and the trustees of the drainage area, we really are just here to kind of sit and twiddle our thumbs and hopefully bring this thing to a head, because of the fact that if we don't, pretty soon the state is gonna pull the money that they've set aside for the drainage and closing the ag drain well. And if we aren't at least being active in trying to pursue some way of closing that cluster or that group of wells over there, we're trying to, they're just gonna say, it's done. What is the date, Mike?
I don't know if there's a specific date, but each of the 7 wells have a permit that's issued by the DNR, and each of those permits have an expiration date. And I have not looked them up specifically, but in general, they're gonna expire in 2019 or 2020, so we're pushing the envelope here of when they will need to be closed.
So in doing so, as the Board of Trustees of Drainage in Humboldt, the only way that we're allowed to do anything is if someone brings a petition to us so that we can actively try to carry that out. And right now, we don't have anything, but we're trying to figure out what's the best avenue for you as landowners, or the county as a whole, and figure out what's the best way to get that group of wells capped, closed, tiled, whatever your decision is. So we're here to listen. Mike has had, what, three different meetings?
Specifically, and then a couple just general
Individuals.
meetings, yeah.
So with that, I'm gonna
Turn it over.
to Trish. She's taking it from here. No, Mike, go ahead.
No, I'll just again, I appreciate your time. I know we all have things that we could be doing and representing the Department of Agriculture. What I want to do is work with the landowners to close these wells. And just a brief history, we hired Rick through Jacobson Westergaard, I don't know, back in 2014.
That's right.
And he did a very preliminary study to try to get an idea of if all the wells were closed and they were drained, what would the cost be? And we presented that to you guys, and that was estimated around $5 million total, which at 75% cost share was, would leave the landowners an average cost of $575 an acre. And obviously those with the ag drainage wells and the wetter ground would likely pay at least twice, if not 3 times that amount. So you're looking at, $1,500 an acre. And I recognize that's a lot of money. And so what we've looked at, providing an alternative of closing the ag drainage wells and creating wetlands. And so what the state would do would work with the landowners who are willing to close the wells and create a wetland to determine how many acres would be impacted and square that off so it's farmable, and then we would, as a state, offer you an easement payment of $78.02 per acre. So you would still own the land, but you would not be able to farm it. It would be a perpetual easement that you would never farm it again. And we talked to Iowa Ag Mitigation people, and they said that they would work with us to, if whoever was willing to create a wetland, that they would help pay for the construction, help maintain it, help develop it, and then they would, their costs would be offset by selling mitigation credits. And if you're not familiar with what a wetland mitigation bank is, essentially anybody who is wanting to do improvements to drainage in their agricultural land, if they have an area that's designated by the NRCS has a farmed wetland, if they do anything to impact that wetland and they don't mitigate it, they become ineligible to receive any USDA benefits. So there's a lot of projects where people are putting in new tile and they want to drain something, and the NRCS says, well, if you drain this, you have to replace a wetland of the same size. And if you can't do that, then what you can do is purchase credits that somebody else has established. And so that's what we would be looking at in this situation. Again, it would be up to the individual landowners, but in an ideal setting, those who want to do draining, or those who want to do wetlands, we would close a well, create a wetland, we'd work with the mitigation bank people. They would do all the maintenance, all the work that's needed to establish it. They would sell the credits, and that would take a period of time, and when they're done with that, then you would have the option of selling the land to an interested party, maybe the County Conservation Board, maybe the DNR, or some other entities that like wetlands for various reasons. And you could sell that at a residual value. Residual value is $1,000 an acre plus or minus $100, $200. While you still own the land, you're still responsible for the taxes. I think you could apply for a SLU bill, and so you could get your taxes reduced, that, hey, it's not farmland anymore, it's wetland. So that's something that the landowners would do. So that's one option. I know in the past, what we've talked to the landowners is, it's difficult to do both. You either need to all do drainage, or you need to all do wetlands. So we met last July, and there was a vote that was taken, and a number of landowners said, I wanna do drainage. A number of landowners said, I wanna do wetlands. And when I figured out which landowners and where they're at on the map, all the landowners who wanted drainage were all on the northeast area. The part we're looking at, all the people who wanted to do wetlands were outside of that. So I spent a couple of days on my computer trying to figure this out, and came up with another proposal that I want to present to you folks today. And I've talked to a lot of you people already, not everyone, and I got my boss to approve this, and so this idea is that those in the northeast would still be able to do drainage. Somebody would have to file a petition, and those in the other area would still have wetlands. There is one landowner that wanted wetlands, that the way we would do it, it would have to be divided, and some of the land would be wetlands and some of the land would be drainage. But everybody else, outside of the one landowner who wanted wetlands, could still have wetlands, and those who wanted drainage could still have drainage. So, Rick, if you can hand this out, if you don't mind. And this is the general map, and this is the specific. Bruce, if you don't mind trying to figure out which landowners are which here. And the board, I'll give you the copy of the individual ones too. There should, hopefully there's enough maps for everybody.
Mike, I might ask a question. If somebody doesn't want a wetland on their area, can they be forced to take it?
No.
Through petition, they have to agree to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the wetland is all volunteer, 'cause there's no way to force you to do it other than, the DNR may require the well to be closed, and if you don't agree to an easement, your land may be wet anyway, unless there's drainage, so. So hopefully everybody has a map.
Maybe I need a couple more. Could I get a copy of your sheet, Mike?
Of this one?
Report? Yeah. Thank you.
Ooh, let me get a copy. Here, you want a paper clip? Thank you.
Now that you're on the board, you should have one.
Yeah.
So if you look at the map, the big map, there's a yellow line. And again, this is all preliminary, nothing is set in stone until there's an agreement and an engineering study done. This is just my best guess based on available information on the computer desktop. And until there's some real survey done on the site and we know where the tile is, so these things may change, but this is to give you at least a ballpark number of what we're looking at. Again, I realize this yellow line was copied from Rick Hopper's report and reduced. And again, Rick just did a preliminary. There is a lot more work that has to be done if people decide to do drainage. I understand that there may be some more land involved, and so if there is more land that would be drained, then that would be included, and probably the cost per acre would be changed a little bit. So, again, this is just preliminary information to give you some guidance to make a decision. And so this is an option. You know, we really have talked about three options. One is to do all drainage, which is very expensive. The other one is to do all wetlands, which is still a possibility if the people here in the northeast in the yellow decide, I really don't want to pay this amount, I want to do wetlands. And then there's this option that allows both either drainage and wetlands. Again, there's this is all preliminary, and these red lines would be what I would guess could be an easement boundary for those who want wetlands, and that will be determined once we have the engineering study complete, and that will be negotiated with the landowners. This yellow line will be adjusted based upon what we learn from if someone files petition, and then it's sent. The only way we can get gravity outlet is if it drains to the northeast, to the Des Moines River, because the tiles all, the tiles coming into the ag drainage wells are low enough that we can't go to the southeast by gravity drainage.
Which way is the natural flow of the
From the
surface water go?
From the surface area, it's to the southeast. But the wells are low enough that you can't put a tile in and drain to the southeast, because
Why?
well, it won't daylight, you'd have to go a long ways, and then you're tying into another district you'd have to...
But that's the way the natural flow of the water goes.
That is the way the natural flow of water.
Where the river. Why is it you can just up and take water from one watershed to another? The law says you can't do that without, asking the owner to go across here. How do you get by with that?
Well, that would be part of the engineer's report, and that would, if it goes drainage, that would be the engineer's recommendation, and the Board of Supervisors would approve that. That's how that works, Gary.
I don't think it's that simple. You're saying just the Board of Supervisors can allow it to go, taking water from one water district into another? The law doesn't read that way. Huh?
Yeah, I haven't studied it out, Gary.
Well, I can tell you, just read the law. I could read it to you right here. You gotta get permission from every landowner from the river where you're taking it. And you just up and do it.
Somebody will have to file a petition before that can even be addressed. And nobody has filed a petition yet.
Well, now you're telling me that when they went through my farm with 125, totally screwed me up, wanted to bill me $40,000, did me no good. I don't trust you people, period. This is the third one I'm fighting now. I had DD2, went across the corner of my farm, did me absolutely no good. And from there, you didn't follow the old main. Now the old main needs to be redone. We got a big problem. And the new main should have followed the old one, but no, you took it off another direction. But still, we all had to pay for it. Cost me $40,000, that didn't mean anything. I got headaches, we're still out there working on it. I don't trust you people. You don't use common sense. You should have took 125 in conjunction with this, you did it all together, to the right way it should have gone, and you could have saved a lot of landowners here need drainage, but they're not gonna get it now. Doesn't matter what you do here, they're not gonna get it, and they'll never get their farm drain, because you guys don't use common sense. I know you gotta go by the rules, the government tells you, take it the simple, easiest, cheapest way, but you're not doing it. But you can't even answer the question, Rick, how you do that all the time, you did the same thing up there at school. You took water from one district to another, you can actually just look at, and the water flows to the north, but you took it to the south. How do you do that?
It's done a lot.
How come the Iowa code says you can't do it?
Well, the Iowa code tells how you can claim damages if there are damages doing it. Any of these projects we've done have been under a drainage attorney's supervision. So I'd have to rely on them on how they interpret the code. But it's been done multiple times. And multiple that you know about just yourself, so.
Yeah. I mean, now they're putting in a tile up here by the school, going the way it should have gone. To begin with, instead of going to the south, it should have went to the north, that's the way the water flows.
And the very north part of the school site goes north.
The whole school area, the dividing line is the very south side of the school line. That's where the car goes this way and the other goes that. It can stand on the ground, look, you don't even have to circle.
Goes there, yeah.
And Mike, have you taken into consideration on this line going through the property, how many tiles you're gonna have to go across? How can you even come up with a figure anywhere close when you're gonna have to go across 100 tile lines?
Yeah, what we've done, our department, you know, we hired Jacobs and Westergaard, and they developed an estimate, and I'm not sure what all assumptions Rick has made, and again, it's...
Huh?
I don't remember how many tile connections.
I don't know how you could even think about it without looking at a map. That's how many you gotta go through.
Gary, this is an estimate, and it's to give the landowners who are impacted by the ag drainage wells some information to base a decision on. So when we first met, the landowner said, we don't have any cost or dollar figures on how can we make a decision. So this is something that I put together to provide information to the landowners to help them make a decision. Again, it's very preliminary, but it is at least a number that's gonna be a ballpark number that you can use to make a decision.
But how can you go across the person's ground, and he doesn't need 1 foot of tile, and then you charge him for it? You should pay us to go across there, instead of we paying.
You know, in this situation, Gary, my understanding is you would not benefit from this drainage, as you're not in the yellow line, so you would not be paying anything at all for this tile system, but...
Why didn't that happen on my home place?
Well, because you were in the drainage district in the other place. You're within the area that was drained within the drainage district that was...
I should have been. The road was a dividing line, the water went that way.
I didn't develop that. You'd
No,
have to-
this guy did.
He did.
On these projects, you need to have a second opinion. I'm tired of this. You need to have a second opinion.
That one still comes down to, you'd have to improve 2 other drainage districts to get it to the river. You have to go through other districts. And
It
that
should
just
all
makes
went
it
south,
impractical.
it should have went south the way the natural flow of the water goes.
Hey,
Subsurface and
Gary,
surface can be different.
I respect your concerns, and I understand that, but we're really getting a little sidetracked from the purpose of this meeting,
Yeah,
and
but
maybe we
I'm
can...
just going by past things that I've listened to you give, right, just like you're doing now. and it harmed me, and it cost me a lot of bucks, and it didn't do me next really good. That's why I'm speaking up.
I understand. I understand. But what I'd like to hear from these landowners here is if there's some consensus, will they want to go wetland or will they want to go drainage? Do you have a question?
These maps were individually for each individual farm, and they were handed out to the public. So I have a farm for Anderson here, it should probably go to them.
Right.
So these are all individual instead of having the
Right.
same sheet. So if they're not yours, you should give it to somebody else, so.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
We got overwhelmed. Why don't we hand it back there? Not, and that's who's involved.
I'm sorry, I thought it was clear who's...
Well, I don't have a clue who has who.
Bricks and pipe, that's all drains in our well. Yeah, it's brick.
I just find
Well, I can tell you right now, that map's on, but that's exactly where your lane is right at my property, and that's exactly where it's at right now. With it open.
Oh, thank you.
My house is right there.
Right,
And that single there, right where that's at, that's where it's at today, with what dropped out from this year.
Thank you.
And it's gonna be sitting in my yard.
well, what we will do is, if it's near, an acreage, we will construct an isolation berm, so the water will not go onto your property, there'll be a berm that will protect your property.
How tall you gonna make it? 5 feet in the air?
It will be up to the engineer to decide. The wetlands will be designed, to have an outlet, so the water level will be controlled and maintained. And then there'll be an isolation berm that will be higher than the outlet.
Until you get 8 inches of rain, and it goes over that, and you get water and everything else where you never had before.
Well, it'll be designed by the engineer to protect your property. And if it needs to be a higher berm, then it will, so.
Okay, this figure down here that says average estimate, is that the total cost?
No, that would be just the landowner's estimate.
And that probably won't be enough, will it?
Already paid $62,000.
Yeah, it depends, I mean, again, they're numbers that are based on the best available information at this time.
But that doesn't include the 100 caps or 100 dealers you gotta do for these guys here.
Yeah.
Probably not enough, if you go through their fees.
Oh, man.
So, again, I appreciate, the situation that you folks are in. You didn't create the rules that are forcing you to close the egg drainage well. Other people have done that, and again, it's my job to work with the landowners to get the egg drainage wells closed, and we realize the high cost of a tile system, so that's why we're offering another option of closing the wells and creating a wetland. And I'm not here to tell you which way to choose, because I'm not the landowner, I don't have the long-term plans, I haven't, or the interest that you guys do, but I am here to say they have to be closed, and these are the options. We can either do all tile, all wetlands, or we can try to do a mix.
They're in my well.
How about the natural ones in the system, that are natural out there, anything gonna be addressed to those, or?
If the other, if most of the landowners are willing to go with a wetland, then we will try to address those too. and close those and create more wetlands. If it goes with a tile system, they're considered natural sinks, and, you know, the state doesn't have any jurisdiction over them. So, not that there couldn't be a tile system, but it wouldn't be cost shared.
There's one landowner that wasn't notified about this meeting, so we can't speak for her.
And who is that?
That would be Judy Higgins,
I spoke to her this morning,
did you?
yeah.
I did talk to, her son, right, David.
I don't know what he said.
He didn't say anything, I sent him information so he could, at
And then
least be.
there's an estate representative that my daughter and plus, so. Couldn't be here today. but she's on the
Yeah,
phone.
I'm here, but I'm having trouble hearing when other people in the crowd are talking, so.
Yeah, and I'm not saying a decision has to be made today, but a decision will have to be made soon. And the decision that needs to be made is, do you want to do wetlands, or do you want to do tile, or do you want to do a mix of things? And again, I'm not here to tell you what that decision needs to be made. I'm just here to provide information so the landowners can make the decision.
Is there a date when the mine will go away? Is there a drop dead date?
There is not at this point. But if, I would imagine, it won't be there forever. The wells will have to be closed. If they're permitted up to 2019 or 2020, that's when they'll have to be closed.
And you're sure of that?
Yeah.
You know that for a fact?
Well, the DNR, I don't control the DNR.
But I mean, they have said they are gonna be closed.
Well, I think if the landowners are willing to work with us, they'll give them some flexibility, but the landowners are unwilling to work with us, or maybe unable to make a decision, then there's a chance they could, force the landowners to close the wells.
There's a chance.
There's a likelihood they will.
Actually, sorry, go ahead.
How tall is this ridge of dirt gonna be to keep this water back?
Now, nothing's been designed yet, so we don't know.
But I know now that water comes from neighbors, it's not for taint in this well site. The money that I have to pay, I'm not taking no water from neighbors.
Okay.
Although there's intakes across the road that water comes there, and I've seen it over the road a few times. I've seen it over my driveway, further over the highway.
Oh, I know.
So it's gonna get deep someday. And I'm not gonna be taking this, it comes across the road now, I mean, that's why that pond's up there, and I'm not gonna be staying still for that. But the money that I have to pay, it's not gonna be coming across, that Tyler's gonna be gone or something. So there's four of them, there's one on the highway, and there's three on that gravel road that's gonna have to come out or something.
So I made a phone call to DNR 3 weeks ago or so and tried finding out dates on the permits. And, so I initially called the Des Moines office and they sent me to the Mason City office, which is in charge of the ag drainage wells permitting. And, the gentleman I talked to didn't sound like he knew a lot about it. Unfortunately, I couldn't give me any dates. And he kind of pointed it in the direction of the Board of Supervisors, because he thought it was under a drainage district. Just so everyone knows.
The problem, Bruce really alluded to it, but we technically, at this point in time, have no jurisdiction over any of this. Because this is, we aren't here this would be a big drainage district, obviously. This is not a drainage district. As the trustees of, if this was district, you name the number, we have many of in Humboldt County, we would have jurisdiction and a little more input. At this point in time, and like Mike is saying, it's truly informational, and it obviously falls back on the landowners to, you know, take that information and move forward with it. We will never have jurisdiction over this, until and unless it actually becomes a drainage district.
Right.
Some part of it.
Right.
Some part of it.
So there, to me, there was some confusion with the DNR gentleman that I talked to, because he was under the impression it was still under a drainage district, or in a drainage district.
If it was...
And I explained to him that we were told it was not.
If it was, it'd be slightly different, where we would have, we'd still have a similar proceeding with the landowners as we always do with drainage district projects. But at this point, this isn't.
Right.
So, as Bruce succinctly said, we're basically the facilitators of these meetings. And, you know, Mike obviously has been doing these, and he is the point of contact from Idell's, who is the state, who is requesting the closure of the wells through the DNR.
So, bottom line, I was just trying to find out,
Right.
hey, when are you gonna put, when are you...
Sounds to me like you really didn't find out much.
I didn't find out anything.
The person you need to talk to at the DNR is Mike Anderson, and he is in Des Moines. He's in the Wallace Building. I've talked to him on a number of occasions, so. Mike Anderson is his name, so he is very familiar with the ag drainage well, requirements and programs. So if you call the DNR and ask for him, he could look up the dates and let you know, so. Sometimes you don't end up talking to the right person because they don't know how to direct you, but Mike Anderson is the person with the DNR to direct you.
Right. With the new proposal you have, with maybe splitting up this whole thing, maybe it makes sense to take a vote, the people in the northeast part enclosed by yellow can vote, the other people can maybe vote. Does that make any sense to try something like that?
We could try that. I mean, again, if you want to do a wetland, that's an individual decision. And we'll work together with that. And I understand you guys who own the houses close to those, the acreages, and I recognize your concern. And I assure you, we're not gonna just flood your property. We can't do that. And those who wanna do drainage, yeah, that's up to them, and that could be a vote for those who want to do drainage. And then, based upon that, the board could, they can't appoint someone until someone officially files a petition. So that's what starts the process to form a drainage district, is someone has to file a petition and post some money.
Is it a true statement that somebody needs to petition for wetlands as well?
No. The wetlands, the people who want to do wetlands, that's an individual decision, and in general, the people who want to do wetlands all need to be in agreement that that's what they want to do. You can't have one person in the middle of where all those wetlands are and say, I want to do drainage, because you can't have a wetland and drainage on the same parcel.
That's why I was under the impression there was a petition for that as well, I guess.
No, because, again, if people choose to do a wetland, it's an individual decision. There are no rules, there are no laws in place such as there are for creating a drainage district. So that's why it's all a volunteer basis, and we'll work, as a state, we'll work with the individual landowners who want to do wetlands to make sure we're addressing all their concerns, and we know, we'll study the ag drainage well, we'll study the tile going into it, we'll figure out what the water level's gonna be, how big the isolation berms need to be, and we'll negotiate an easement boundary based upon that information.
Mike, can a non-pervious tile go through a wetland and drain it right on through it? If they wanted to do that?
Potentially, it's hard, I mean, potentially, yeah,
It'd be costly, but it could be done.
yeah.
Oh, excuse me, I'm not sure if I'm looking at the same map that you guys are, but I have this yellow line going around and it splits the drain and the wetlands right between our property. So can you explain the flash line? I mean, if I missed it, I apologize, but what's the
No,
process
that's fine,
of
yeah.
everything that's being split and what's happening there in detail?
Yeah, there's one well that's, close to where the people have indicated they want to have drainage. And so if we close that well, and provide drainage, how do we also do a wetland? So what I did was, on my sheet, there's kind of a natural ridge there, so I just created a berm that would tie that natural ridge together. That line is not set in stone, it could be adjusted further to the north and east to create more wetlands if that's what the landowners who own that, which is the Higgins, if that's what they wanted to do, so.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's, again, this
Get a
is,
full understanding of what's
yeah.
happening there.
So the Higgins property was the only one that indicated they wanted wetlands that, because of where the well is located, has to have a mix of drainage and wetlands. If it's split this way, there's partial drainage and partial wetlands. And again, everything is open to negotiation at this point. This is just numbers based on best available information that is gonna change when we have more specific engineering completed.
Is there an interest, since there is an interest in the wetlands, is there going to be funds for pre-engineering, preliminary engineering, like there was for Kyle? So we have an idea of cool depth, et cetera, what the, for me, it's depth of water in front of my place, obviously.
Sure, no, and that's a good question, yeah.
Before deciding, so we know what we're getting into?
What our agency has done is we solicited engineering proposals, with the understanding that there would be wetlands, at least those far outlying areas, because that's what the landowners have done. And so we had to do a public, opening for that, and Jacobson Westergaard was selected, so we haven't quite signed the contract, but everything's in place. And what will happen is, part of the contract is there's 6 phases. The first phase is Jacobson Westergaard going out, getting hard information about the tile coming into the wells and all the elevations. And then they're gonna come up with a preliminary design that they submit to our department. We review it, make any corrections. And then what we're gonna do is meet with all the landowners individually, based upon the preliminary engineering, and say, hey, this is what we found out, this is what we're thinking, and then we'll adjust whatever we need to based upon those landowner meetings. We'll also negotiate what the permanent easement boundary want it to be, and then we'll go into, once all that's finalized, we'll go to final design, and they'll survey your property to establish the easement boundaries, and then we'll go to bidding and construction. So we have a contract that's in place, and, depending upon what's decided will depend upon how many properties they go on to and how far it goes. But there will be real engineering that's done, and there will be preliminary information that's developed, and then we'll meet the landowners, and we'll make any adjustments that needed before we go to final design.
The other key on that, as with other drainage closures, or the well closures, was once you make that move, then you can at least get the money allocated, correct?
Yes.
And that's the key as far as the state putting their share in. Once that process is started, at least the money is secured for the 75%.
No one's mentioned the cost of the limestone. under all that ground. That's why the tile's so high.
The tile cost is high because we have to do some pretty deep digging, and we don't have a lot of slope to work with, so the pipe gets big. A big pipe is expensive.
How big a pipe is it gonna be?
I don't remember, I haven't reviewed the report recently.
How you come up with the prices if you don't know the size of the tile?
We know, I
mean, they got prices here, but...
What,
The original that I've seen is
The-
66, up to 66 inches.
the original was 66.
Yeah, the tile.
If a lot of the,
Might be bigger.
if the southwest, if the areas that I've shown are wetlands and then the one area goes, my estimate is based on a 36-inch tile that goes to the northeast. And I don't, it's gonna be close.
How deep?
Uh,
What's the deepest?
I think it's 20 or 21 feet, I believe.
Gotta be more than that.
It could be, again.
It's gonna take more than that to get through.
And like Mike said, the size would be smaller than we had in the report with taking off these acres.
Going east, you got a hill there, you gotta go through.
Yep. I know it's over 20 feet. To get through that.
20 feet?
Over 20.
Yeah, I would think it'd be more than that.
So again, the tile costs are, you know, everything's just best guess at this point.
The engineering company made a survey maybe 20 years ago or so, because my husband found they were out in our field and he talked to them. So there's been studies on this before.
Yeah, and the initial study was back in the 90s.
Yeah.
And then we asked Rick to review and update, back in 2014. And then I've done a lot of this just desktop stuff, so,
You ever consider making that whole area up through there a drainage district and drain all this ground, this good ground that they want to put in? I mean, there's so much wet ground in through there that needs drainage, and if you do this now, that's done, they'll never get drainage.
I understand, Gary, and yeah, again, the natural course of drainage is to the southeast. And if you go southeast, then you tie into another district, and then you get to the point where, the tile just gets really big and very expensive, and...
You dump into a drainage ditch down there, and now you may have to make a bigger ditch. But, I mean, there's just a whole area there that should have been all one district. Those all the sink wells, 125 should have been in it, this should have been in it, and then a lot of other farmers that got wet ground should have been included. It just got off on the wrong foot.
Part of our report that we did for this area included looking going southeast, and how many feet we'd have to go and approximate sizes. And it just ended up at least double, as I remember, maybe triple the cost, taking it that way. But yes, the surface water is naturally to the southeast.
But I'm saying you could have included all the farmers, spread the cost over that whole big area, and everybody would have got drainage.
How, you'd have to have petitions probably from 2 or 3 districts to try and get those all together. Because you're talking taking it a long way southeast, right, to the river?
No, that drainage ditch that DD2 dumps into.
Richard always said that drainage ditch.
Yeah.
That's what he said years
The
ago.
level of the tile coming into the drainage well, though, prohibits draining the subsurface water. We could take the surface water, but not the subsurface.
I don't believe that.
Well, we've got elevations
Yeah.
starting years ago. I don't think any of those have been changed.
You're saying those sink wells are that deep? They're more than like...
Some of them
5 or
are,
6?
we've got elevations on all of them. The pipe coming into it that we could see at the time.
Ours aren't that deep, they're right in the rock.
Yeah, well, what about, that's another question, what about all these, natural sinks?
I understand that, Gary, and that's a question that we've talked about.
And they move around.
And the state, obviously, we can't control what nature does, but, so when the rules were passed, what the goal is to close all, ag drainage wells. When there's the initial requirements in the 90s to register all the wells, some of the wells were determined to be natural sinks and were not permitted because they're natural sinks. And those that
How
are...
our water gets supplied back down to our wells, how do you figure the water gets down in the ground back to feed our wells? How do you tell me how it gets there, how it gets there?
Right. You know how it gets there. It filters down to the ground.
But there's a lot of places that just goes down natural sink wells.
I know. And so, once we're done with all the man-made ones, then the plan is to start looking at and addressing the natural sinks. And I don't exactly know how that will be handled.
And there's a number of those in this whole area.
I know there's a number in Floyd County too, so, and in Pocahontas,
And there's
so.
a number that have been covered that have never been reported.
Yeah, I know. I don't know where they are or how to do that, but, you know, I can't do anything about that. I just hear that there are, I don't know specifically.
My husband's made, we lived with those farms and he knows.
Yeah,
You know, we can talk about this, we've talked about it for 20 years,
we have.
and it's just always the same thing. I'm wondering if the people that are involved in this yellow line are interested in your proposal at all.
Yeah, that's what I'd like to find out today.
But that's what I thought we were here for.
That's my understanding too. And those who are in the yellow line, I've talked to most of them already to just try to get a feel for if they are still interested. But it would be helpful to know that, you know, based upon our discussion today. And then it would be helpful to know those who are not in the yellow line, are you guys interested in doing a wetland? And if you are interested in a wetland, then that makes an impact on my instructions to Rick Hopper and his company and what to investigate. And if we can determine some of those things today, that would be great. If we're unable to, I recognize we're unable to, but at some point...
My daughter will be here the day after tomorrow.
Okay.
So the three of us can get together. And you say you have Judy's or Rick's?
Yeah, because at this point, it's kind of impossible for us to say whether this yellow line is gonna work for us or not, because we own it with, you know, my aunt who isn't at this meeting, and, you know, we need to discuss it, and I'm just kind of learning the consequences of this yellow line, you know, right now, because
Sure.
the first has been detailed to me, so I'm not really sure what we're gonna be able to offer for feedback right now, because we don't have, you know, a full account of all of us that are.
Right, I understand. And that yellow line is, on your property, is negotiable. I mean, it can be shifted, and we'll work with you if you know, based upon what the decision is.
The other thing I would add is, Mike coming up here numerous times and putting the time and effort he has, working not only with us, but with the landowners. He's to the point where he'll continue to answer and hopefully, find out, questions that you have, but sooner or later, he's gonna have to go work on other things, so that's why the decision has to be made one of these days, that what you're gonna do.
You can make it the end of the week, but.
Oh,
We
we're
can't
just
write
sitting here too.
today.
No, and that's very understandable.
Mhm.
And the other question that, Gary, you made about, why don't we hire another engineer? They were hired by them. Humboldt County hasn't hired anyone, so we're just sitting back waiting to find out what the landowners, that's where we're at. Right, like you.
Is that a big deal, Mike, to have a second engineer's opinion on a project like this and all the other ones we've done?
Well, you know, once a drainage district is formed, the board hires an engineer. And then as a state agency, we rely on what the board does at that time. Obviously, we review the engineer's report and look at it, provide comments, but it doesn't hurt to have a second opinion, but in some...
So if they, with her comment of, well, the management will go home, if they want to give you an answer, are we willing to take an answer? If you want wetlands, if you want tile? We need some direction too.
Well, let me... Okay.
I'm tired of sitting here.
Sure.
I got other things I could be doing.
Yeah, go ahead.
I represent the Roger Modest ground, and he wants to go with wetlands.
Okay.
And that's part of the southern part of it, in the middle there.
Yeah, Roger Pontus, okay.
Is there anyone, or more than one person here, that's in the yellow shaded area, that would be the drainage area, correct, Mike?
Yes.
Proposed drainage. Can we get any input, you know, it's not official, but ideas on the drainage system from you folks? In other words, the tile information listed on the sheet, 370 acres approximately, talks about the cost and that. Is there anybody here that's affected by that, or has any comments on the drainage part of it? Let's talk about that. We're not hearing anything, we're hearing wetlands and good discussion on that, and we think we have a lot more information, but what about the drainage thing? Is there anybody here?
Well, Jerry and Jim are, and then Kibbers, but he's not here, and then Louise Pike.
Louise here.
You gotta know what they're gonna do before you start having, this is gonna be coming over on me, and I'm not gonna go for it, or I guess it is. But I got more information to know what's going on there, I'm not going to stand my back.
I'm with him on that, although I don't have a lot of say, because I don't have a lot of acres. I did do some preliminary investigation on my own with laser transit. I'm gonna hand it out.
Sound like it vote either way till I find out what's it gonna be behind the house.
When I did this, it was based on 3 feet of water in front of my house. For those of you who don't.
Which, so,
I can share here.
Thank you.
That's 3 foot of water at the base of the ag drainage well, based on elevations.
these two, one for Rick, Peters.
On the first page, everything to the right, as it says, would be water on the property. There's a back to somewhere. Second page, left of the line, there is a septic system through there, and you'll see later on. The next page after that was the install of the septic system at its location.
And that's if it's wetland, David?
That is as of right now.
All right.
Well, that, if it goes wetland, that's correct, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there's no isolation. I mean,
And no isolation berms. My concern is if you look with isolation berms, when I put the septic system in, if you look, the water encroachment, that was overnight. The water came up to about 4 foot level. That's with ag drainage wells. Now, subsurface or surface water, I believe we could keep water away from the property. But my concern is coming in underneath.
I've never had water in my basement, and we close this wall behind my house, am I gonna have water in my basement?
We'll rely on the engineer, we'll offset, we could put a sub-drain to catch seepage, so it won't get into your basement.
Plug and find it, it's finished. I mean, never had water in 5 years I've been there, and now you close this off and you get more, like he's saying, coming up out of the ground, where's that gonna be?
And if you put a berm, the only thing you're doing is keeping the water in that's already in there. Surface water, or anything that comes underneath that I have to pump out.
Right.
Then where do I gotta go with it? Clear out that berm.
You ever notice that service water where it all goes?
Surface water goes south.
I know, but you know, doesn't go into natural sink down there also, some of it?
Two of them.
Huh?
Yeah, about three naturals that goes on a truck. Eventually it ends up underneath my driveway.
It doesn't hardly end up after that dredge ditch.
It will eventually once it goes underneath my driveway where I live now, and it goes underneath to the drain just about a mile away.
You guys really got a can of worms here.
Yeah, that's right on the edge of town.
No, I asked you a question.
I don't know where it's at now.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay, we're not in the
Oh,
yellow
we're-
line, it's
oh, you're where Jay
564
lives?
acre field with that
Okay.
tile and
I
everything.
didn't know
All
that.
this water goes underneath my driveway.
Well, I believe it.
What's our
Richard always,
recourse if
you
you
know, 'cause
decide
they
to do
own
this?
that.
How can we
Ever since
stop?
they've owned that.
I don't know, that's a good question.
Well, we can, if the Nels and the guy that owns this big farm, have you thought about that?
Oh, I have.
Tell me what we do.
See, if you're not in the drainage district,
Which evidently we're not.
then I don't know if there is a recourse to stop it, I don't know.
Huh?
I don't know what there is a recourse. Obviously, if you're in the drainage district and there's remonstrance,
We're in a
that...
drainage district, but not this one.
Right. Right, if you're in this drainage, if you're in a drainage district and you don't agree with what's proposed on that drainage district, there's remonstrance to kill a project. If you're not in the drainage district, I don't know if you can stop another drainage district project from happening. I don't know that.
Well, it's back to taking water from one water source to another. And our code is so plain on that, if you guys keep doing it, I don't understand how you get it.
Again, this is a very complicated, and this is very messy, and I'm just trying to do my best to work with the landowners, to give them options, and I know there's concerns, and...
I don't think the state understands the water problems that they're gonna have.
You know, I tested my well before they closed it, a couple of years before they closed it, sent it in, you could drink it.
I
You
know.
drink out of the tiles all the time when we was kids farming.
And I'm not the one that is requiring the wells to be closed.
Yeah.
Those are the people in the gold dome that are elected officials, and they're the ones who are providing us money and cost share. And I'm here to say the wells aren't gonna have to be closed. And I'm trying to work with you guys and provide options. And I recognize it's complicated. I recognize, Gary, your situation, I wouldn't want people to go through my property either. I understand that. And I understand those who have acreages that I've never had water. I recognize that, and I am, and I'm not saying we're trying to ramrod or force things through. And I wanna make sure we design things and we accommodate the landowner's preferences, and we work with you with the limitations we have, the funding we have, and again, I'm here to work with you guys. I just need some direction on which way you wanna go, and I recognize there are some real and valid concerns, and I'm not trying to minimize those at all. But I do wanna assure you that we'll work with you, we'll address those and work with you guys.
That's the thing, I'm not necessarily, me personally, I'm not necessarily against wetlands, but everyone needs to understand what they're getting into. For me, that's what it is for me.
Sure.
I think we're just gonna keep on going around in a circle, unless we actually see what these wetlands are gonna look like when you're done. Get the other engineer, figure out what is actually gonna happen, where it's actually gonna be at. If they do went to wetlands, I mean, we can draw maps all the time. So,
And that's why our agency has hired Jacobs and Westergaard to do the study on wetlands.
I think we're at a stopping point until we find out the actual where they're gonna be at and what they're gonna impact.
Well, they must be the voting if you don't know where you're going.
Right.
You say you can't go south, and I can see Gary's a big mess there going across these new little tile stuff there too. But as of right now, we don't know where we're even going for sure.
Right.
Maybe nowhere. Maybe the government needs to buy all this ground.
Well, what the state is offering is to purchase an easement and create a wetland.
If you ain't gonna get paid for that for whatever they feel like it.
If we enter
How
into,
about the state just purchasing the land, and then they can do what they want with it? Yeah.
I don't think they
No,
got
he's
enough
saying
money.
okay, what we are offering, if landowners are willing to do
They're gonna
this,
go out and sweat down.
we will enter into an easement, you will still own the property. And we will close the wells, create a wetland, and then an Iowa mitigation bank people will manage it, and then after the credits are sold, then you would have the opportunity to sell the land to an interested party, which may be the DNR, which may be someone else, and then you would not own the property at all, you'd have a wetland.
That's all maybe stuff.
You know, I'm pretty sure somebody would be interested in buying this land. And the easement is, that's what we're offering right now. We would offer the land that gets wets now, we would offer you $7,802 an acre. And, squared off so you could farm it. That's what we're offering. And then chances are 5 or 10 years from now, I can't guarantee it, 'cause I'm not in control of it, but I would bet a lot of money that somebody would be interested in purchasing the residual value for around $1,000 an acre.
If we have to wait 4 or 5 years to get our money, there's a lot of us that own this ground are not gonna be here.
No, the 7802, you would get as soon as, the easement is signed and recorded, which would be next calendar year sometime. You would get the 7802 per acre, whatever is agreed to, you would get that next year. The other residual value of $1,000 an acre, that would be later when you sold it to whoever. So the 7802 would be worked out and you would get that payment next year.
And if the people on the yellow decide to tile, they may have to mitigate some of that wetlands that they have in there. It's been $10,000 an acre to mitigate that and buy some of this ground.
Well, we'd probably use some of these credits for that. That's, my estimate was assuming any wetland that's impacted by this inside that yellow line would be mitigated by our project without paying for those credits. Again, I'm here to provide information. I want to make sure all your questions are answered, and maybe it's impossible to answer all of them.
Hey, can I just, confirm something real quick, because I gotta make sure I, correctly get this information to like 5 other people that are involved in this. But with the current drain tiles that are there, whatever decision is made affecting each tile, before anything moves forward, there'll be a meeting with each landowner to discuss how those drain tiles that are currently there are gonna be affected and what's gonna move forward.
Yes.
Is that what you said earlier? That's correct? Okay.
Yes, what we have a contract for, Jackson and Westergaard. They will study each well, and they will study each tile coming into the well, and they will provide a recommendation. You know, the tile coming into the wells, cannot be flooded out. They're gonna have to be, essentially relayed at a higher, flatter elevation so they can still drain, and they'll drain into the wetland. The wetland will be designed to have an overflow, so it will have essentially a stable water level, It will also, if there is a lot of water, it'll be designed to have an auxiliary spillway, so the water level will be able to control the maximum water level. And then for those with acreages, we'll offset when we need to avoid damages to your property. If we need to install a drain, a French drain to kind of intercept water so it doesn't raise the water level on your property. We'll do those things, we'll look at it, we'll figure out what we need to do.
At what point in time to refeed that stuff? When do we have hard numbers in front of us?
Whenever Rick gets his field work done and comes up with a preliminary design, the thought would be probably February, March, if the weather cooperates and he can get the field work done. We won't proceed to any construction until the preliminary is completed. We've met with all the individual landowners, including those who own acreages, and make sure everybody is comfortable with how to move forward. And then we'll determine what those red lines are. Then we'll hire them. Jake's and Westergaard will do a legal survey and put states where those red lines are. And then we'll write you once that easement is filed with the courthouse, then we can issue a check for the 7802, whatever acres are in the area.
We've arranged with
I have one other
contractors.
question too regarding this petition process. Is that something each landowner needs to do separately, or is it a collective amongst all of us, or how does that, I guess I'm not familiar with this process, or if there's a way I can learn more about that and
Yeah.
what needs to be done.
No, that's a good question. All that is required is one landowner to file a petition with the board and post a bond saying, I want you to hire an engineer to do a study to form a drainage district. So it's just one landowner. It could be more, but only one landowner is required to do that.
How much for a bond do you propose?
That bond is determined by the board, and it's essentially to cover the cost of the engineering study.
We have made arrangements to work with a contractor exposing the tile next week, depending on the outcome of this meeting. We're gonna locate the tile, trace it, get depth, size, everything, to determine what has to be relayed to make it work for wetlands.
Yeah, I still think we're to the point of, we're gonna keep going around in circles till we see what the wetlands are gonna look like.
I understand with the wetlands that, you can't agree on what they're gonna be, but in general, are people, yes, I would prefer a wetland over drainage, then we can hire them to do the wetland study. We don't wanna waste the money to do the wetland study if the landowner says, there's no way I'm gonna do a wetland, I only wanna do drainage.
You got 50-50 group.
And again, the 50-50 group, all those who wanted drainage are in that yellow line, and those who wanted wetland are outside of that yellow line.
But then you got me and him sitting here that we're on the fence either way, because we don't know what's gonna affect the places where we live. And Terry too. Yeah, he wants drainage, but you got houses here that are, yeah, we have a small factor in it, but
No, and I
we
understand that.
still need to see what it's gonna look like and where the water's gonna lay and that kind of stuff.
That was the only reason I put that together, is I wanted to put in my mind what it could look like for me. Like I said, I'm not against either way, and I understand the dollar signs attached to both decisions, so. I'm at the mercy of it.
Do you ever buy acreage?
Sorry, what?
Do you ever buy an acreage like that, where you have wetlands on two sides of it, or three sides of it, or whatever?
You know, the Department of Agriculture does not own land.
Well, this mitigation process, I mean, you're mitigating the ground around this. Do you ever mitigate something like this to include it and have a bigger cost for that, or?
They might have fun with mosquitoes.
That's what, you guys willing to give a life-time supply of mosquito spray, the whole deal?
We got an outside pool running right by it, for the kids.
Oh, that's where I'm talking about the engineering side of it, is is it gonna be stagnant? What are we getting into?
You know, there, the tile water, the tile that flows into the wells will flow into the wetlands, so as long as the tiles are flowing, there'll be a continual source of water coming into this place of water. I don't see it, I mean, there could be times where it's stagnant.
I just hate to see all this good ground put into wetlands, all the ground around there, the right-of-way tree, all good farm ground, put into wetlands for the rest of
Could do that, I don't know.
Is 3 foot a close estimate?
It'd be
3 to 5,
cheaper for the
probably.
state to buy those acreages.
Well, again,
Somehow.
it's just every
It'd be cheaper for them.
You know, what we're offering, well, oh, to buy the acreages?
Yeah, 'cause they're
Well,
minor.
I don't know if they'd wanna sell their acreage, that's their home, so.
For me, I don't wanna sell.
That's right. I don't want to sell mine either.
And I
I don't want water in my basement or water on my property either.
And I understand that.
So, one way I would agree to the wetland portion of you considering it is, you gotta put a tile in around my house.
And, well, if that's what's needed, that's what we'll do.
Who's pulling the purse strings when it comes to something like that? Decision on how much would be spent to mitigate on our property? Who decides that? Just out of curiosity.
You mean, what do you mean, to purchase your property?
No.
Oh.
So if there's gonna be X amount of dollars attached to mitigating around our properties.
Mhm.
Whatever number that is, based on the depth of water and underground water infiltration.
Would the engineering study have to be done first?
Yeah, the engineering study.
Right.
And it will determine the height of the berm and the wetland outlets and that will, in terms of, you know, your property, there won't be any wetland on your property, so you won't receive any, easement, you won't have an easement. And you won't receive any money from us, but obviously we'll work with you to make sure anything we design doesn't flood, you get your basement wet, doesn't flood your property. And so or doesn't impact your septic system. So we realize your concerns and we will address those in our design, and we will meet with you individuals, even though you're not technically having an easement out of your concerns. We will meet with you and make sure that we accommodate your preferences. And if we need to offset further from your property, you know, we can do that. There's no set, this is where the berm has to be. If we need to move it 100 feet north or west to get further away from your property, we can do that.
All that, there's a dollar sign attached to all that though. So that's my only concern, like, at what point do you go, well, it's just cheaper to buy them and take them out? Because that's what would go down. There's 3 options for me. There's tile, which nothing changes for the most part. There's wetlands, and we can't mitigate the water and all agree, or I'd have to move out. Those are my 3 options. That's reality for me.
Yeah, again, we're not in a position to purchase your property. So if it goes wetlands, we'll make sure our design takes care of all your concerns.
My question on if your line's here and if you put tile around your entire property and there's berm, what are you doing? Just pumping it over the wall and it's gonna come right back?
It's gonna keep cycling.
Yeah, it's just like living out by the river.
Are there instances of this ever done?
No, this is, we're looking at another project in, Wright County, and we're looking at some in Floyd County. But and we're looking at this one here. Yeah, initially with the state, there were 300 wells, and we're down to like 25 that are left. And some of these are the more challenging, difficult ones, which includes these 7. So, there's a reason these were put to the end, because they are a little more challenging, a little more difficult.
Maybe should have put it in, because it's easy.
So basically, though, you're down to, these guys, they need to know if the people around them want wetlands. because you gotta go ahead then with the study, right?
We voted on this once.
So, I mean, that's where we're at.
Yeah,
And these guys with the yellow lines on the tile, you kinda gave them a guesstimate of what their tile's gonna cost, right?
I did, yeah.
Yeah,
Best
well, all right, so we just need to go, you know, one way or the other. I mean, these guys now know what the tile might cost them that are in the yellow.
A lot more now than it was.
Well, that's, you know, I gotta, you know, that's
Yeah,
what it is.
it is more, and that's because there's less acres involved.
But the people south of like Highway 3, they all wanted wetlands, so, or even these guys that are on acreages to even know anything, they gotta start this wetland study, right? Because they basically know south of the highway, that's what they want, right?
Yeah, and those two wells, I think we're planning on Rick doing the study based upon the landowners around those wells said we would prefer wetlands, and they're really outliers, so we could still do the wetlands even if the rest went tile. But,
So everybody south of Highway 3 is already committed to wetlands, right?
well, back in July when we met, generally that's what happened. There was, a landowner in the far east part of, south of Highway 3 that wanted, drainage. And so that's why the Higgins property is gonna split with partial drainage and partial wetland. But everyone else, back in July, who said I wanted wetlands, are still getting wetlands. Everyone else who said I wanted drainage is getting drainage. And obviously, those who wanted drainage, it is costing a little bit more because the drainage district has shrunk. So the tile is smaller.
Sure that that's gonna split yet, because we don't know for sure yet, right? Isn't that still up for discussion?
Yeah, the Higgins is up, again, all of this is open for discussion where the exact lines are gonna be. And so the only thing that's really fixed is a 7802 per acre that will offer for our wetland. The number of acres that are gonna be in the
Go up
easement
or down a little bit.
can change based upon what the engineering
And we
study.
need an outlet, so if there is farm ground there, we can get at it.
Right. Oh, I understand. And the easement is, the way I've shown it is to just take into account the land that's gonna be impacted by the wetlands, which is probably land that's flooded out this year anyway, for the most part.
Well, can you start the south of the highway deal that, you know, the majority is wetland? Is that feasible to start it now, so everybody
Hey, we're just going around in circles. We need to get, next fall is, we need to get the other engineers to find out what this wetlands is gonna do, even for these guys crossing on the other lane.
Well, that's what I'm getting at, can't you just at least start the south parts, if you know where the wetlands are?
From what I gather, is that we're not gonna put any money towards engineering the wetlands until it's for sure that it's gonna be wetlands, right?
No, I think we're gonna, if, okay, over Hellman's, are you guys still thinking wetlands?
We still want wetlands.
Still want wetlands, okay. And the Higgins, I know that you guys have another meeting and part of your land is split, but,
We just need to get together so we have one voice.
and then I'd be glad to talk to you on the phone Friday when you meet with.
We won't meet Friday, it'll be Wednesday.
Wednesday, okay, I'd be glad to, I don't think I can come up, but I can be glad to be on the phone with you guys on Wednesday, if that would help.
Yeah, that would probably work, because then we could get Judy on the line too.
And I know Tibbers, they still want, and they're in the far east part, south of Highway 3, he still wants to do drainage. And I guess the one question I don't know is with the Myers. I know Jim and Betty and then Jerry, what are you guys thinking? And then, Louise, are you still?
I would like to go with whatever Myers decide,
Okay.
whichever way I would like to be
I've
in
got,
agreement.
go ahead. I've got to know a lot more answers, so I'm gonna vote either way.
Okay.
'Cause I got tile that come across the road that runs water, that's why I got all that extra water now from the west and stuff, south, no way. that stuff's all gonna have to disappear.
He doesn't have all the say that well.
He didn't what?
He doesn't have all of the say that well.
Right, I
Because it's on
understand.
his land, I drain into it too.
I understand. So,
A lot of people don't pay for the upkeep of those wells. So then, we were told by a drainage clerk, they don't have a say when they don't
There's
pay.
no upkeep and no-
Oh, there has been. And,
No.
oh, yeah. You have to build up those berms, we
It's
had to
already
do that.
built up.
We paid for it, no one else did.
There's only 2 of us in our well.
I remember.
okay, so, based on our conversation today, you guys, please, if I'm misspeaking, correct me. What we will do is go ahead and study the wetlands, and it'll be subject to conversation with Higgins on Wednesday. And if you guys are in agreement that something will work out, either all wetlands or partial wetlands, and we can negotiate. If they're in agreement with that, then we will instruct Jameson Westergaard to study, to do a wetland study for everything that's shown as blue and green on this area. And with the Myers and then Mrs. Piper, it's really, at this point, you guys are undecided, and I understand that. And there's nothing I can do unless you guys decide, yes, we want to do wetland, or someone, and maybe, Mr. Kibbers will file a petition to form a drainage district, and then you guys can always kill that drainage district if you don't want to do that. You can probably do remonstrance and stop it. But again, this would at least allow the wetland study to move forward, and again, we will meet with you guys and go over things and make sure that your concerns are addressed, and we may need to offset a lot further than just to protect your property, because I understand, I have a house, and, you know, I'm a homeowner, and I don't want things done around me that impact me, so I respect that, and we'll work with you guys on that. You have my,
So if I heard right, you said hopefully like in February, if we did the preliminary study for the wetlands, is that right, Rick?
Yes, if we're able to go ahead and get the field work going next week, because it's gonna take a little while to put.
So at least we'll have the ability to have some somewhat solid numbers as to what we're...
at least for the wetland, and again, the portion north of Highway 3, the northeast side, it's mostly the Kibbers and the Myers and Mrs. Piper. We could do a wetland study, if you guys think that's something you wanna do, we can add that later. At this point, I'm a little hesitant, because I know Kibbers really wants drainage, and you guys have indicated to me that earlier that you prefer drainage, and I know you don't have hard numbers to work with, and the only way to get hard numbers is for someone to file a petition and for a real engineering, completed engineering study to be completed rather than just preliminary. And then once that's decided, then you guys say, oh, this is my real cost, I don't wanna do that. And we could still switch from tile to wetland at that time, if you guys wanted to do that. But I'm not inclined to hire Rick to do the wetland study unless there's some, confidence that, yeah, we would really like to do that. And you don't have to tell me today. But at some point, you will have to decide. I know Kibbers, I don't think we can convince him to do a wetland. I think he's all drainage. And he will likely file a petition, and you guys can probably own enough land that you could stop that if you didn't want it to proceed that.
Is the number 50% of 70%?
If more than 50% of the landowners who own more than 70% of the land.
In a drainage district.
In a drainage district.
This isn't a drainage district.
Correct.
Right.
But it's the same thing if it's an attempt to establish a district, it's the same thing applies. 50-something.
Right. If I read the law correctly, my interpretation was that it would have to be petitioned, and then that law would take effect.
Yes.
Right.
But if it's not petitioned,
If it's not petitioned, there's nothing that can be done. There's no engineering study that's gonna be done at all, so until a petition is filed.
that's why I was asking if it's petitioned for wetlands. 'cause-
Now, the wetland is all on a volunteer basis. And I guess for those of you who, are, in the wetland, what I will need to do is, to make it official, to get an easement from you. And what the easement will do is allow, Rick Hopper and his crew and a backhoe onto your property to do the investigation. So there's just something in writing that says, I give you permission to be on my property to do the engineering study. That's all you're doing, to go out and do a survey, to dig up the tile, and to do the investigation. You're not agreeing to anything else other than just to do the engineering work that needs to be done to develop the preliminary design. So I will get that to you guys, and so you can sign that and make it official. But I guess verbally, do we have your permission for Rick Hopper to be on your property, to essentially do the survey, dig up tile, or whatever he needs to make sure his design accommodates everything that needs to be done? Okay. And I'll follow up with a written document that you guys can sign. And if you guys have any restrictions, make sure to enter this way, or please let us know. I'll let Rick know. His crew will be very careful. And any tile, when they dig it up, if they break it, they'll have to fix it, because we don't know for sure what's gonna happen. So any damage that they do will have to be fixed and repaired. But there will be little potholes to find the tile.
We'll probably be digging it up about every 300 feet. That's about as far as you can get with the locator, make it accurate.
What's your initial check? Is it water table you're looking for too, or what kind of the order of process there?
Mainly, to start with, would be the tile locations, including the depth, so that we know that we can daylight those into a wetland area. If we can't get enough depth, that will rule out the wetland situation. So, that's the main thing.
The water table would be good.
So we'll have to see as far as...
Really high this year.
Yeah, I know.
Good year to do a study, then I don't know anything about that, right?
And hopefully you guys have all my contact information, and, again, I wanna be a resource for you guys. I don't wanna mislead you in any way at all. I want you to have all the information. Again, I can't give you hard, fast numbers, because we're just at the preliminary stage, but we'll work towards that. And again, I'm just here to work with you guys, and I understand, can't we just keep things the way they are? Why do we have to go through this mess? But I didn't make that decision, somebody else did. In the Gold Dome that has the final say, and I'm here to work with you guys. Again, I appreciate your time, and I do respect the difficult situation you're all in.
Hey, Mike, other option hasn't been said, I don't know if it's an option or not, but drains will come to a close at that point in time. If you close them and don't do anything, you can still farm what you can farm. If it doesn't drain, you don't farm that. If you do, you do, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's the other option, right?
That is the other option, is to just close it and let whatever happens happen. But that would mean 3 feet of water and his driveway flooded, most likely, or even higher. That's just 3 feet,
No,
so.
if the drainage well closes in his way, the water will naturally run like it does right now on down the stream like Gary Nate does to the southeast. It'll probably never get any taller than it is right now.
But the other side is could get some action from Des Moines, because the water could get deep enough going across Highway 3
Yeah,
that you
that's
have
right.
to take the ferry across to get to Gilmore.
You may have to
I
open
mean,
up-
seriously.
You may have to open up old number 10.
In our lane, or in
Yeah, you might
our
have to.
property, the county controls that one sink well
In the ditch.
in the ditch.
Right.
So,
On the east-west road, right there in the low.
north-south.
Yeah, it's north-south.
Right across
My-
from
my
So
Delaware.
you county's
Right
gotta
in the
make
ditch.
one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, anyway, I know this kind of sounds like a broken record. We appreciate everyone. We're just trying to beat the deadline of whatever the deadline is. We appreciate Mike coming up again. And I guess we'll hopefully hear from Rick and his firm and get us some numbers, and we'll get back with everyone.
I've got a question to ask too. The state of Iowa is tiled into that well. Do you guys have to get permission from them?
We will, yeah, they are. Yeah.
They are. On Highway 3.
Yeah, and that's part of what Rick's study will show, too, what tiles come in, what property is impacted by this tile, and we'll have to work with all those people.
Humboldt County, you'll have to work with.
And again, just so you know what we'll do when Rick is done with his preliminary study, we'll probably ask the board if we can use this room, and what we'll do is schedule maybe a couple of days of meetings where we'll just come in and sit with you. If you want, we could go to your house or whatever, but it won't be all together. It'll be individual meetings, just talk about your property and how that will be impacted.
Any other questions? Trish, you got something?
When were you thinking on that? After the preliminary?
Yeah, it'll be after the preliminary, which, kinda depends if the weather cooperates and get all the field work done, then maybe February, March. If we get a lot of snow and they're unable to get out there, then, it's...
Rick said it'd be done by February 3rd.
Read my mind. No.
February
Well,
3rd,
yeah,
hopefully.
Mike's right, it depends on the weather. We gotta get out there right away.
It'd be nice to know when the
Right.
drop dead dates were for when the money's gonna go away, if that's...
Well, you might get a better answer from that gentleman in Des Moines than us.
DNR was very standoffish when I was asking him questions.
If you talk to Mike Anderson, he's pretty good. I could look up the permit dates, I can find out and get back to you guys.
Because those dates, they're not gonna change.
But those are not necessarily drop dead dates, because if we're making progress and moving forward, really the drop dead date is on our department with when the money goes away. And as long as we're making progress and moving forward, the money's not gonna go away. If you guys decide, I don't wanna do this, I'm just gonna throw my hands up, and then the money's gonna go away. But as long as we're making progress, and based upon this meeting, I think we are, but if we have a preliminary design and you guys say, we don't like that at all, we're just gonna go away, or if you decide we wanna do drainage, we'll consider that, but if at some point, nobody wants to move forward, then that's when we'll establish a drop dead date. So as long as we're making progress and moving forward, we'll hold on to the money for this project.
Who's the decision maker on whether we're making progress or not?
Me.
Good answer. I got your number.
So ultimately, it's my supervisor, but he's gonna listen to me, and I think, yeah, we are making progress, and he trusts me. I've been doing this for a long time.
There's the answer.
But Ray can't make a study on drainage unless somebody does a petition.
That is correct,
Okay.
Mrs. Piper.
But you think that Kibbers or whatever is gonna do that?
He could, he hasn't indicated that he will. I've encouraged him that if this is the way you wanna do it, then somebody's gotta file a petition, and you're the one who's the strongest wanting drainage, so it should be really on you.
All right, well, that's it. We appreciate everyone. We need a motion to go out of drainage.
I just have one question for Tricia. I think I paid a couple $1,000s in January, a couple of years ago, to start something.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if I received that back. I need to have you check I don't think I have, but I need to have you check your records, Tricia.
Do we have a motion to
That was for that drainage district.
Lateral out. I will check on it.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't think we was in there.
I don't think we were either, but we...
That doesn't really make any difference, because
Well, we
this
gotta
is
have
a...
motion to get out of the meeting.
Well, I'll make a motion to get out of this discussion.
Which one?
We gotta close our regular meeting, so we have a motion.
Get out of drainage.
Thank you, guys.
Well, we weren't in drainage, I guess we're still in our general session.
Because it's really not drainage.
So we need a motion, we got a motion, and now we need a second. Got a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?